The security footage played on my laptop screen for the fourth time, and each viewing made my blood boil hotter. There was my cousin Colby, clear as day, jimmying open the back door of my boutique at 2:47 a.m. I'd recognize that signature slouch anywhere, even with the hood pulled up. My name is Daphne, and I've spent the last 6 years building velvet and lace from nothing into one of the most successful boutiques in our city. Now I sat in my ransacked office, surrounded by empty display cases where my most expensive pieces had been. Ma'am, we'll need you to sign here. The police officer handed me a form, his pen hovering over the spot where I needed to press charges. Are you absolutely certain about this? Family matters can be complicated. I grabbed the pen. Family doesn't steal $50,000 worth of merchandise from family. My phone buzzed again. The seventh call from my mother in the past hour. I silenced it without looking. The security company called me at 4 a.m., I told the officer, signing my name with sharp, angry strokes. I thought it was a false alarm until I saw the back door hanging open. Then I found this. I handed him the note I'd discovered pinned to my office door. Sorry, cuz. Desperate times. I'll make it right someday. C. The officer bagged it as evidence, while his partner photographed the empty cases. My pride and joy, vintage Cartier pieces, limited edition handbags, and custom jewelry, all gone. Daphne, my sister Lexi burst through the front door, still in her pajamas. Mom's freaking out. Tell me you haven't pressed charges yet. Too late. I crossed my arms. And don't start with the buddy's family speech. You don't understand what you're doing. Lexi grabbed my arm. Uncle Graham is livid. He's talking about cutting you off completely. I yanked free. Cut me off from what? The family that's calling me a traitor for holding their precious Colby accountable? My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my aunt. How dare you do this to your own cousin, after everything we've done for you? I laughed bitterly. Everything they've done for me? I built this place myself. Every penny, every late night, every sacrifice. That was all me. Ma'am, the officer interrupted, we've got enough for now. We'll be in touch once we locate your cousin. After they left, Lexi paced the shop floor while I began cataloging the missing items for insurance. He's been struggling, she said softly, ever since he lost his job. Don't. I slammed my laptop shut. Don't you dare make excuses for him. He didn't steal bread to feed his children. He took luxury items he can fence for quick cash, probably to pay off whatever mess he's gotten himself into this time. You don't know that. I know exactly what I saw on that footage. I pulled it up again, pointing at the screen. Look how he goes straight for the high-value cases. He knew exactly what he wanted. This wasn't desperation. It was calculated. My phone lit up with a text from Colby himself. Please, cuz, don't do this. I can explain everything. He's reaching out, Lexi said hopefully. Maybe if you just talk to him. The time for talking was before he broke into my store. I deleted the message without responding. Actions have consequences. It's time this family learned that. You'll regret this, Lexi warned, heading for the door. When you're alone at the next family gathering, if you're even invited, you'll wish you'd handled this differently. Maybe. I stood amid the wreckage of my shop, my voice steady, but I'd regret letting him get away with it even more. After she left, I walked the silent aisles of my boutique, straightening items that had been knocked askew during the break-in. 6 years of work, of proving everyone wrong when they said I was crazy to open a high-end shop in this economy. 6 years of building something I could be proud of. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Victoria, our family matriarch. Come see me tomorrow. There are things you need to know. I stared at the message for a long moment before putting my phone away. Whatever Victoria had to say could wait. Right now, I had a store to put back together and a security system to upgrade. My family wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. Sometimes justice was more important than keeping the peace. I looked at the empty cases one last time before locking up for the day. Colby had chosen his path. Now I was choosing mine. Victoria's house smelled like cinnamon and secrets. She poured tea from a delicate porcelain pot while I sat stiffly on her antique sofa, still angry from the morning's confrontation with Uncle Graham in my shop's parking lot. You're making a terrible mistake, he'd shouted, face red with rage. My boy made one bad choice. One. And you're ready to ruin his life over some insured merchandise? Your boy is 29 years old, I'd fired back. Old enough to know breaking and entering is a crime. Now Victoria studied me over her teacup. You've stirred up quite the hornet's nest, dear. They're the ones swarming. I set my untouched tea down. Did you ask me here to convince me to drop the charges too? No. Victoria's eyes narrowed. I asked you here because it's time you understood what you're really dealing with. Before she could continue, the front door burst open. My mother rushed in, followed by Lexi. There you are. Mom's voice trembled. I've been calling for days. How could you do this to us? To you? I stood up. He robbed me. Rhea, sit down, Victoria commanded. You're not helping. But she's destroying this family. Mom collapsed into an armchair. Colby's talking about leaving town. Graham won't even speak to me anymore. Good, I snapped. Maybe he should focus on why his son's a thief instead of threatening me. Lexi stepped between us. Daphne, please, just hear Mom out. No, you all need to hear me. I faced them each in turn. Colby broke into my store. He stole from me. He betrayed my trust. And instead of holding him accountable, you're all acting like I'm the criminal. It's more complicated than that, Victoria said quietly. What's complicated about it? Victoria set her tea down with a sharp clink. Colby's actions. They're part of a pattern, one this family has chosen to ignore for far too long. Victoria, don't. Mom's warning was sharp. Don't what? I looked between them. What pattern? Victoria's response was cut off by my phone ringing. Kent's name flashed on the screen, my friend who'd been helping me document the aftermath of the break-in. Take it, Victoria said, but come back tomorrow, alone. I stepped onto the porch to answer. Kent, you need to get down here. His voice was urgent. I was reviewing the security footage again. There's something you need to see. I'm on my way. I grabbed my purse, ignoring my mother's protests. Daphne, wait. Lexi caught up to me at my car. There's something you should know about Colby, about what happened 3 years ago at Uncle Tommy's wedding. Save it. I yanked my door open. I'm done with family secrets. But no. I met her eyes. Either stand with me or get out of my way. I'm finding out the truth, with or without this family's help. The drive to Kent's office was a blur of anger and questions. What pattern was Victoria talking about? What had happened at Tommy's wedding? Why did it feel like everyone knew something I didn't? Kent was waiting outside his accounting firm. You're not going to believe this. He led me to his office, pulling up the footage on his computer. Watch Tommy here. The video showed Tommy arriving at my store 2 hours before Colby's break-in, testing the back door before leaving. He cased the place for him, my hands clenched into fists. My own uncle helped him do this. There's more. Kent pulled up some old bank statements. Remember when you asked me to look into Colby's finances? I found a pattern of large cash deposits following other robberies in the area. And guess who else had similar deposits? Tommy's bank records filled the screen. They've done this before, I whispered. They've been doing this together. Want to know the kicker? Kent pointed to a transaction. 3 years ago, right after Tommy's wedding, they both made massive deposits. The same week that high-end jewelry store was hit. Lexi's earlier words echoed in my head. Something about what happened at Tommy's wedding. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Now you're asking the right questions. Come tomorrow at noon. Bring what your friend found. I looked at Kent. I need copies of everything. Already done. He handed me a USB drive. What are you going to do? I thought about my family's desperate attempts to keep me quiet, about Victoria's hints and Lexi's unfinished warning. I'm going to rip their secrets wide open, I said. All of them. Victoria's hands shook as she examined the bank statements Kent had compiled. I knew, she whispered. I knew, but I never had proof. Proof of what exactly? I leaned forward. What's really going on here? Before she could answer, someone pounded on her front door. Tommy's voice boomed through. Victoria, open up. I know she's in there. Victoria's eyes widened. Quick, through the back. She shoved the USB drive into my hands. Take these to the storage unit on Maple Street, number 479. The key's under the snake plant by your feet. There's more there. Everything I've collected over the years. The pounding grew louder. I grabbed the key, slipping out through her garden just as I heard the front door burst open. Where is she? Tommy's voice carried through the open window. Who? Victoria's voice was steel. And how dare you barge into my home like this? I didn't stay to hear more, racing to my car and speeding toward Maple Street. My phone exploded with messages. 3 from Tommy, 2 from Uncle Graham, and 1 from Colby. You have no idea what you're doing. Stop digging. The storage unit was small and dusty. Inside, I found boxes of old documents, photographs, and journals. A manila envelope caught my eye, labeled Wedding Incident 2020. I thought I'd find you here. I spun around. Lexi stood in the doorway, arms crossed. How did you? I followed you from Victoria's. She stepped inside, closing the door. Tommy's losing it. He knows Victoria's been keeping records. Records of what? I held up the envelope. What happened at the wedding, Lexi? She sank down onto a box. I saw something I shouldn't have. Tommy and Colby, behind the reception hall. They were splitting up money, talking about some job they'd pulled. When they saw me, she shuddered. Tommy said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure Mom lost everything. What do you mean, lost everything? The family business? It's not just Dad's name on it. Tommy and Graham have been using it to launder money for years. One word from Tommy, and it all comes crashing down. My phone buzzed. Kent, you need to see this. Found police reports matching the dates of their deposits. Hit after hit, all high-end retailers. They're career criminals, I whispered, and the family's been covering for them. Not all of us. Lexi grabbed a journal from a nearby box. Victoria's been documenting everything. That's why she pushed you to investigate. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to stand up to them. I started photographing documents with my phone. We need copies of everything before... The storage unit door rattled. Graham's voice carried through. The car's here. Check inside. Back corner, Lexi hissed, pointing to a hidden door connecting to the next unit. Victoria showed me once. Go, I'll stall them. I slipped through with an armful of documents just as the main door rolled up. Through the thin wall, I heard Graham's angry voice. Where is she? Where's who? Lexi's innocent tone was perfect. I'm just cleaning out some old stuff Victoria said I could have. Don't play dumb. Tommy this time. Where are the records? I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're looking for Daphne, she's meeting with her lawyer right now. Something about security footage showing you at her store before the break-in? Silence followed her words. Then Graham spoke quietly. Tommy, you said you weren't involved. I'm not. She's lying. Am I? Lexi's voice hardened. I saw the footage myself. Want to explain that to Uncle Graham? Or should we talk about what really happened at your wedding? More silence. Then footsteps retreating, followed by cars starting. Lexi opened the connecting door. They're gone, but they'll be back with reinforcements. I clutched the documents to my chest. Why are you helping me now? You were against me pressing charges. Because I'm tired of being afraid. She grabbed another box of records. Victoria's right. Someone needs to stop them. But you can't do it alone. My phone lit up with a text from Victoria. Got away from Tommy. Meet at Kent's office. Bring everything. I looked at Lexi. You sure about this? Once we expose them... Mom will never forgive us, she finished. But maybe that's the price of doing the right thing. We loaded the boxes into my car, documents that would shatter our family forever. But as we drove to Kent's office, I felt lighter than I had in days. The truth was finally coming out, and there was no stopping it now. Kent's office looked like a war room, with documents spread across every surface. Victoria sat at his desk, methodically sorting through years of evidence while Lexi and I cross-referenced dates with police reports. Look at this, Kent said, pointing to his computer screen. Every major robbery in the past 5 years. They all line up with family events. The country club heist, right after Graham's anniversary party. The art gallery theft, the weekend of Mom's funeral. Perfect alibis, Victoria nodded. Who would suspect someone attending a family function? My phone buzzed. Mom again. Please come home. We can talk about this. Don't answer, Lexi warned. She's with Graham and Tommy at the house. They're trying to trap you into a family meeting. The office door burst open. Colby stood there, pale and sweating. Get out, I snapped, reaching for my phone. Wait. He held up his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to talk to you, alone. Kent stepped between us. That's not happening. Please. Colby's voice cracked. They're going to pin everything on me. Tommy and Dad, they're meeting with their lawyer right now. They're going to say I acted alone, that I've been stealing for years without their knowledge. Victoria stood up. Let him talk. You can talk right here, I said, in front of everyone. Colby slumped into a chair. It started at Tommy's wedding. I was in debt, bad debt. Tommy said he could help, but I had to do exactly what he said. The wedding was just a test run. The jewelry store robbery, Lexi said quietly. Yeah. Colby wiped his face. After that, it got easier. Tommy would pick the targets, Dad would handle the money laundering through the family business, and I did the actual jobs. And my store? My voice shook with anger. Was that their idea too? No. He wouldn't meet my eyes. That was all me. I thought if I hit someone in the family, they couldn't report it without exposing everything. I never expected you to actually press charges. You underestimated her, Victoria said sharply. Just like they all did. Kent's printer whirred to life, spitting out documents. I've got enough here to bury all of them. Bank records, security footage, witness statements, everything. They'll destroy Mom's life, Lexi whispered. The business... Mom's not innocent in this, I said. She knew. They all knew. Not everything. Colby pulled out his phone. But you're right, and I can prove it. I've been recording their conversations for months. Insurance, in case they ever tried to throw me under the bus. Like they're doing now. He played a recording. Tommy's voice filled the room. If anyone starts asking questions, Colby takes the fall. That was always the deal. Graham, back me up here. They're meeting at the house tonight, Colby said. Everyone will be there. They're planning to present a united front, make me out to be the black sheep who's been stealing from the family for years. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Then that's where we'll confront them. All of us, with all of this evidence. It's too dangerous, Kent protested. They're cornered animals at this point. No, I stood up. Victoria's right. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of them controlling the narrative. Tonight ends it. All of it. Lexi grabbed my arm. Then we do it smart. Kent, call your friend at the police department. Have them ready, but out of sight. Colby, you'll need to wear a wire. Already ahead of you. Kent pulled out recording equipment. State of the art. They'll never know. I'll get them drinking, Victoria said. They always talk more when they're drunk. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom. Family dinner tonight, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I showed them the text. Looks like we're expected. Good. Colby attached the wire under his shirt. Time they learned they can't control everything. We spent the next hour preparing, gathering documents, making copies, ensuring every piece of evidence was bulletproof. One way or another, tonight would change everything. Ready? Lexi asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at our unlikely alliance. Victoria, the secret keeper turned whistleblower. Kent, the loyal friend who never backed down. Colby, the thief seeking redemption. And Lexi, the sister who finally chose truth over peace. Ready, I said. Let's go blow up our family. As we drove to my childhood home, I thought about all the family dinners where lies were served alongside Mom's pot roast. Tonight, truth would be the main course, and justice for dessert. Whether they were ready or not, everything was about to change. Mom's pot roast filled the house with a familiar aroma that turned my stomach. Everyone sat around the dining room table, the good china laid out like this was just another family dinner. Kent waited in his car down the street, monitoring Colby's wire and coordinating with the police. Well, Graham raised his wine glass. Shall we discuss this situation like adults? Let's. I remained standing, my bag of evidence heavy at my feet. Let's start with Tommy casing my store 2 hours before Colby broke in. Tommy's fork clattered against his plate. That's ridiculous. Is it? Victoria pulled out her tablet. Because the security footage is quite clear. You brought her into this? Mom's face paled. Victoria, you promised. I promised to protect this family. Victoria cut in. Not its criminals. Graham slammed his hand on the table. Now listen here. No, you listen. Lexi's voice cracked through the air. We know everything. The wedding heist, the art gallery, the country club, all of it. Lexi, Mom gasped. How could I what, Mom? Tell the truth? Someone had to. Colby shifted uncomfortably, the wire hidden under his shirt broadcasting everything to Kent. You don't understand, Tommy said smoothly. Sometimes families have to what? I pulled out the bank statements. Launder money, stage robberies, Threaten their own relatives into silence? Graham's face turned red. You ungrateful. Don't. Victoria's command froze him mid-sentence. Don't you dare call her ungrateful when you've been stealing from her generation's future to fund your schemes. The business, Mom started, is built on criminal money. I finished. We have proof. Years of it. Tommy stood up slowly. Whatever you think you have. We have everything. Lexi pulled out her phone, playing one of Colby's recordings. Tommy's voice filled the room, discussing plans for the art gallery heist. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? From me. Colby's voice shook. I recorded everything. Every planning session, every threat, every time you promised it would be the last job. You little snake, Graham snarled, lunging across the table at his son. Touch him and I call in the police right now, I warned, holding up my phone. They're already outside. The room went deadly quiet. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. We're your family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't threaten each other. Family doesn't force their children to become criminals. We did what we had to do, Graham insisted. The business was failing. So you turned to theft? Victoria's voice dripped contempt. You forced your own son into becoming your burglar? I didn't force. Yes, you did, Colby exploded. You said if I didn't help, you'd let the loan sharks come after me. Your own son. Tommy moved toward the door. This is all very dramatic, but... Sit down. Lexi blocked his path. Nobody's leaving until everything's out in the open. Everything already is, I said, pulling out my phone. Kent, you getting all this? Crystal clear. His voice came through the speaker. Police are ready on my signal. You're bluffing, Tommy sneered. Try me. I met his eyes. One word from me and they come in, or we can handle this my way. Which is, Graham demanded, confession, restitution, and you all get help, real help. Otherwise, I send everything to the police. Every recording, every document, every piece of evidence we've gathered. You'd destroy this family? Mom's voice broke. You already did that, Lexi said quietly. We're just bringing it into the light. Silence fell as they absorbed our ultimatum. I could see them calculating, weighing options, looking for escape routes. Time's up, I announced. What's it going to be? Tommy slumped in his chair. How much? Everything you stole plus interest. And you all get counseling. Real counseling, not just family therapy where you lie to the therapist. And if we refuse? Graham's voice was dangerous. I pulled out one final document, a detailed confession Colby had written, naming names, dates, amounts. Then this goes public, all of it. The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the silence. Finally, Mom spoke. Graham, she said softly, it's over. Let it be over. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I said, pulling out contracts Kent had prepared. Let's begin. As they started signing, I caught Victoria's approving nod. This wasn't the end. There would be months of rehabilitation, therapy, and rebuilding trust. But it was a start. The truth was finally out, and with it came the first real chance our family had at healing. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I sat in Dr. Marshall's office, watching my family attempt group therapy for the first time. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Dr. Marshall adjusted her glasses. Who would like to begin? Nobody moved. Tommy stared at the floor. Graham fidgeted with his wedding ring. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I will. Colby straightened up. I've been clean for 20 days now. The gambling addiction meetings are helping. That's wonderful, Colby. Dr. Marshall smiled. Would anyone like to respond to that? Why didn't you come to me? Mom burst out. I'm your mother. You could have told me about the gambling instead of letting Tommy drag you into... Don't you dare blame this on me, Tommy snapped. You're the one who taught us to hide everything. Family image is everything, Tommy. Don't let anyone know we're struggling, Tommy. That's not what Enough! Victoria's voice cut through the chaos. We're here to heal, not assign blame. Dr. Marshall nodded. Victoria's right. This isn't about pointing fingers. It's about understanding how we got here and where we go next. I know where I'm going, Graham muttered. Straight to bankruptcy thanks to their restitution plan. The business will survive, I said firmly. Kent's financial team is restructuring everything legitimately. You're lucky we're not all going to prison. Lexi touched my arm. Daphne, remember what we discussed about productive dialogue? I took a deep breath. You're right. I'm sorry. What I meant was, we have a chance to rebuild, the right way this time. Speaking of rebuilding, Dr. Marshall consulted her notes. How is the repayment plan progressing? The first installment was transferred to my account yesterday, I confirmed, and the insurance company dropped their investigation after we explained things. Explained things? Tommy scoffed. You mean after we humiliated ourselves with a confession? After you took responsibility, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. Can we talk about trust? Colby's voice was quiet. I know I broke it, with everyone, but especially with you, Daphne. I want to make it right. Trust is earned, I said, softer this time. But you're trying. That matters. Mom started crying again. I just don't understand how we got here. Where did I go wrong? Mom, Lexi leaned forward. This isn't about wrong or right anymore. It's about honesty. Real honesty, not just the appearance of perfection. Dr. Marshall nodded encouragingly. That's very insightful, Lexi. How does everyone feel about what she just said? Scared, Graham admitted, surprising everyone. I've spent so long maintaining this image, I don't know how to be anything else. That's why we're here, Dr. Marshall said, to learn new patterns. Speaking of which, how are the individual therapy sessions going? Tommy shifted uncomfortably. My therapist says I have control issues. You don't say, I muttered, earning a sharp look from Lexi. Actually, Tommy continued, she's probably right. I think I got addicted to the power. The planning, the control, making everyone dance to my tune. That's very self-aware, Tommy. Dr. Marshall praised. Recognition is the first step toward change. My phone buzzed. A text from Kent. Insurance check cleared. Store repairs can start tomorrow. Daphne? Dr. Marshall's voice pulled me back. Would you like to share what you're feeling right now? I looked around the room. At Colby's genuine remorse, at Tommy's struggling self-awareness, at Graham's uncomfortable acceptance, at Mom's tearful hope, at Victoria's quiet strength, at Lexi's unwavering support. I feel cautiously optimistic, I said finally. We're not okay. We might not be okay for a long time, but we're trying. That's something we never did before. Baby steps, Victoria agreed. Rome wasn't built in a day, and families aren't healed in one either. Dr. Marshall smiled. That's a good place to end today's session. Remember your individual appointments this week and the homework we discussed. As we filed out, Mom caught my arm. Sunday dinner? She asked hesitantly. I know it's not required in the agreement, but maybe, I said. Let's see how this week goes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But as I watched them leave, each carrying their own weight of guilt and hope, I realized something had shifted. The lies were gone, replaced by uncomfortable truths. It hurt, but it was a clean hurt, like setting a broken bone so it could heal properly. My phone buzzed again. The contractor confirming tomorrow's appointment to repair my store. One step at a time, everything was being rebuilt, including us. Maybe that's what real family was. Not perfect harmony, but the willingness to face the discord and work through it together. The grand reopening of Velvet and Lace was set for Saturday morning. I stood in the newly renovated space, adjusting a display case when the bell above the door chimed. Wow. Colby stood awkwardly in the entrance. It looks amazing. What are you doing here? I hadn't seen him outside of therapy sessions in weeks. He held up a small package. I wanted to return this before the reopening. Inside was a vintage Cartier bracelet, one of the pieces he'd stolen. I tracked it down from the fence I sold it to, took most of my savings, but you didn't have to. Yes, I did. He placed it carefully on the counter. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but it's a start. The bell chimed again. Tommy walked in, stopping short when he saw Colby. I can come back, he muttered. No, I said firmly. What do you want? He pulled out an envelope. The final insurance paperwork and something else. He handed me a stack of papers. My confession, the full version, every job, every plan, every detail. Do with it what you want. Why now? My therapist says I need to face what I've done, All of it. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She's right. I can't keep pretending I was just helping Colby. I was the mastermind, and I need to own that. The bell chimed a third time. Mom stood there with Victoria and Lexi carrying boxes. We thought you could use help setting up, Lexi said, setting down her box. But if it's not a good time... Actually, I looked around at them. Maybe this is exactly the right time. We spent the next hour working together, arranging displays and unpacking inventory. The tension slowly eased as we fell into a rhythm. Remember when you first opened? Mom asked, carefully arranging a silk scarf. I thought you were crazy to invest your savings in a boutique. You told me I'd fail within 6 months, I reminded her. I was wrong. She touched my arm. About so many things. Mom, no, let me finish. She straightened her shoulders. I pushed this family to maintain appearances at any cost. I ignored the warning signs. I chose willful blindness over truth. And look where it got us. Speaking of truth, Tommy interrupted, there's something else you should know. He glanced at Colby. The country club heist? It wasn't just us. Graham was there too. What? Mom's face went pale. He was the lookout, Colby confirmed. He said he needed to make sure we did it right. Victoria nodded grimly. I suspected as much. That's why he fought so hard against the therapy sessions. The bell chimed again. Kent walked in, carrying coffee for everyone. How's it going in here? He stopped, sensing the tension. Bad time? Perfect time, I said, taking a coffee. We're finally getting some real honesty. About that, Colby cleared his throat. Kent, I owe you an apology too. I know you lost clients when this all came out. Kent shrugged. Actually, I gained some. Turns out people appreciate an accountant who exposes financial crimes instead of hiding them. Unlike some people, Tommy muttered. That's not fair, Mom protested. Your father is exactly where he needs to be. Victoria cut in therapy, facing his choices. We worked in silence for a while, the weight of truth settling around us like dust. The opening tomorrow, Colby said suddenly. Will you have security? Yes, I met his eyes. And cameras and alarms. Trust takes time. He nodded. I understand. I'll earn it back. Somehow. We all will, Tommy added quietly. The afternoon light slanted through the windows, making the new display cases sparkle. My restored boutique felt different now. Stronger somehow, like it had weathered a storm and come out better for it. I'd like to come tomorrow, Mom said. To the opening, if that's okay. I looked at her, really looked at her. The perfect facade was gone, replaced by something more real, more vulnerable. I'd like that, I said. All of you can come, but no stealing. The joke fell flat, but Colby managed a weak laugh. Too soon? I asked. Maybe a few years too soon, Lexi smiled, but we'll get there. As they left that evening, each carrying the weight of their confessions and the lightness of truth, I realized something. We weren't just rebuilding my store, we were rebuilding ourselves, one painful truth at a time. Tomorrow would be a new beginning, not just for Velvet and Lace, but for all of us. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be real. And real was exactly what we needed. The reopening celebration was in full swing when Graham walked through the door. The bustling crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to watch this unexpected arrival. Dad? Colby stepped forward. What are you doing here? Graham held up a small gift bag. I came to return something. He walked to where I stood behind the counter. And to say something. I took the bag cautiously. Inside was a familiar pearl necklace, my grandmother's, which had disappeared during the reading of her will. You took this? My hands shook as I lifted it out. My first theft, he admitted, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. I told myself she would have wanted me to have it, just like I told myself every excuse after that. Graham, Mom whispered. Not here. Yes, here. He turned to face the gathered crowd. My name is Graham Walker, and I'm a thief. I taught my son and my nephew to be thieves. I nearly destroyed this store and this family because I couldn't face my own failures. Kent moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. But that stops today, Graham continued. I've signed over my share of the family business to Lexi. She'll run it properly, legally, the way it should have been run all along. Lexi gasped. Dad, I can't. Yes, you can. He managed a weak smile. You're stronger than I ever was. All of you are. Tommy stepped forward. Uncle Graham. No more excuses. Graham cut him off. No more lies. No more pretending. He turned back to me. I'm sorry, Daphne. Not just for the necklace or the break-in, but for making you doubt yourself when you were the only one brave enough to stand up for what's right. Victoria appeared at my side, taking the necklace. I remember when your grandmother wore this to my wedding, she said, fastening it around my neck. She would be proud of you today. All of us? I asked pointedly. No, she smiled sadly. But she would be hopeful, like I am. The crowd began to disperse, returning to browsing and champagne. Graham turned to leave, but Colby caught his arm. Stay, he said. Please, we're having dinner after, all of us. Even Tommy's bringing his therapist. Graham looked around uncertainly. I don't deserve... It's not about deserving, I interrupted. It's about choosing. Every day we choose who we want to be. Today, you chose truth. That matters. The afternoon flowed into evening. Customers came and went, many drawn by the story that had made local headlines. But they stayed for the merchandise, the atmosphere, and the palpable sense of renewal. As the last customers left, we gathered around the central display case, the same one Colby had emptied that night that felt like a lifetime ago. Kent poured champagne while Victoria brought out a cake. To new beginnings, Mom raised her glass. And hard truths, Tommy added. And family, Lexi said firmly. The real kind. Graham cleared his throat. I have something else to say. He pulled out a folded paper. I've been working with my therapist on this. It's a list of everyone I've wronged, and how I plan to make amends. Dad, Colby started. Let me finish. Graham's voice strengthened. I can't take back what I did, but I can work every day to be better, to be worthy of the second chance you've all given me. That's what family does, I said, surprising myself. We hold each other accountable, but we also hold each other up. Victoria raised her glass. To accountability. And to forgiveness, I added, meeting each of their eyes in turn. Not the easy kind that comes with denial, but the hard kind that comes after truth. As we celebrated into the evening, I looked around my restored boutique. The new security system blinked steadily, a reminder of lessons learned. But it was more than that. Each display case now held stories of theft and redemption, of lies and truth, of breaking and rebuilding. Kent squeezed my hand. You did it. We did it, I corrected, watching my family, broken but healing, imperfect but trying. All of us. The night ended with promises of Sunday dinner, therapy appointments, and continued amends. As they left, each carrying their own mixture of regret and hope, I realized something profound. Sometimes it takes breaking something completely to rebuild it stronger. Sometimes the hardest path, the one through truth and accountability, is the only way to real healing. I locked up my boutique, the security system humming reassuringly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time in months, I was ready to face them. Because this time, I wasn't facing them alone.